Every time there's an attempt to give these desperately needed pay raises, it seems to meet with obstruction.
A push to get Oklahoma City teachers the pay raises they have been fighting for. A petition with 17,000 signatures just fell short of the amount needed in order to put this issue on a ballot. Here to talk with us this morning about this effort and where this fight heads from here, we have Troy Stevenson with that coalition who put this this fight together. Good morning, Troy.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We've followed this story closely. Right. We've talked to you multiple times. We watched y'all lug those suitcases in with 17,000 signatures that fell short.
Right. So
How do you feel?
I think there's still a little bit of hope. We heard this morning that they're looking at more of the signatures. There's 5,500 of them in question, so we won't know until tomorrow when the official report comes out from the city clerk.
And you needed 11,991 or 98,
like that, yeah.
And you had 9,000, so that could possibly put you over the edge. Do you have hope?
I have a lot of hope. I think Councilman Shadid is a lot of credit for this. He really led this effort and pushed this forward, and there were dozens of volunteers that really got out and made sure that they got these signatures. And I think that's one of the saddest parts. If they do fall short of the threshold, it was all these volunteers. It was citizens of Oklahoma City trying to get pay raises for teachers so we have better education for our youth. And I think they deserve a lot of credit, and I hope that some of these minor technical details can be hammered out so that we do go forward and let a vote of the people determine if we can get $200 million infused into our schools.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the most fascinating parts of this. It's not just the teachers and the schools themselves fighting for pay raises. It's people across the board, across the state.
It is, yeah. We look at what the legislature's doing, and they just seem incapable of passing a budget. And I think this was citizens of Oklahoma City wanting to take it into their own hands and make sure that they paid their educators. And
get people up to speed on this coalition, on this petition, and exactly what this would have meant and what it would have brought teachers.
Well, like I said, Councilman Shadid was really the force behind this. He wanted to find an innovative way to make sure that teachers in Oklahoma City got, it was bonuses rather than pay raises because of the way it was structured. And like dozens of volunteers came in and wanted to make sure this happened.
How much would those bonuses and stipends?
It would have brought $200 million into the Oklahoma City proper. Now that's Oklahoma City Public Schools as well as some other surrounding schools where people feed in from Oklahoma City. Edmond schools, people who live in Oklahoma City do go to Edmond and things like that. They're thinking up to $2,000, $2,500 for teachers. There was also a provision to make sure that school staff got pay raises, which they haven't gotten in forever. None of it was going to administrators or superintendents. It was all for faculty and staff.
Which would have gone a long way when you think about being in a time where teachers are reaching into their own pockets to even buy, copy paper or colored pencils for their kids. What do you say to people who, they see a petition or a push like this and they say, why are you doing this? There are other state employees who haven't gotten a raise in years. Why teachers don't touch my taxes, don't raise them. What's your response to those people? Because those people are definitely out there.
No, it's a valid, argument. I understand why people are struggling all over, but it's a municipal sale or income tax. So what it would have done was it was a small amount every month. $5 to $10 depending on how much somebody made. It would have only affected people that made over $30,000 as a family. I think that I've lived all over the country. I'm from Oklahoma, but I've lived everywhere, and I've always paid a municipal sales tax. It's 0.5%. A minor aspect, and it would have elevated Oklahoma City. It would have brought business in. It would have made sure. One of the biggest reasons that people like Amazon don't come to Oklahoma City or Tulsa or anywhere in the state is because we don't have good schools. Some of our schools are down to 4 days a week.
Yeah, not competitive enough.
We're not competitive. And this was an effort not just to get pay raises for teachers, and I think that's one of the things that was so important to this coalition of people, these volunteers that were getting these signatures, was making sure that Oklahoma City stays one of these big league cities that is getting things like the Thunder and getting corporations to come in and making sure that we continue the growth that we've had over the last decade.
Yeah, we're booming.
Right.
And I'm sure I speak for you too, and I'm proud to be part of this city right now. And kind of like you're saying, people maybe need to look at a bigger picture, I guess, when it comes to, it's not just putting $2,000 more into this teacher's pocket. It's becoming competitive and bringing the best of the best so that we can, teach our future. Off the top, we also played a soundbite from you. I know you couldn't hear it, but you said, let me see, every time there is an attempt to give these desperately needed pay raises, it seems to be met with obstruction. Right. And why else do you think that is?
I think that there's a lot of interest in the state of Oklahoma that want to say that taxes are evil, which I get. People are struggling. They don't have as much money as they have in the past, but this is a small tax, and we can't even get back to a level that we were at 10 years ago. We are one of the least taxed states, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. It's federal taxes that have gone up. It's federal taxes that in many ways people are struggling to pay. State income tax it's one of the lowest in the country. We don't pay any municipal income tax. Our cities count on sales tax, and if we continue to raise that, and we continue to only allow cities to function, municipalities across the state to function on these sales taxes, it's really hard to be competitive.
Talk about the energy, the time, the dedication it took for you to even gather these signatures in the first place, bring this to fruition, right, and then have it possibly fail.
It was like I said, I wasn't out there collecting signatures very often. I mean, I would do some of it, but this was dozens of volunteers. This was manpower that they were giving of their time to make sure that Oklahoma City is a competitive and strong city. I mean, I moved away for 12 years and came back because of the growth in the city, and I would hate to see people that are returning or people that are moving in question whether they should do that because of our education or our infrastructure or the things that our city can't pay for and our state can't pay for because of this ridiculously low tax base and lack of revenue that's being brought in.
Mm-hmm. Well, even if you weren't out there getting a lot of signatures, right, you weren't maybe door knocking, right, you're here talking about it, you're spreading the word. Last question to you with just a few seconds left. Where again does this fight head from here? Do you just wait now for these kind of invalidated signatures to be reconsidered, and if it does in fact fail, what's next?
I think that we'll see tomorrow. Yeah, we have to. There's lawyers looking at it. There's city clerk is looking at it again. There are. I mean, it's when you've got 17,000 signatures, they have to find where somebody signed anywhere in these petitions that were petition gatherers. Some of them didn't sign the back with their zip code, and I think that was one of the really minor problems that seems weird. They had their address, but they didn't have their zip code, or they didn't have Oklahoma City. So there is a lot of looking over this. What people need to know is this isn't over, and whether it's challenging things like State Question 640, which doesn't allow for revenue increases at the state legislature, or whether it's going back and collecting these signatures again. There are a lot of committed Oklahomans that want to make sure that the revenue's brought into the state, that the revenue's brought into our schools, to make sure that we stay competitive and that we get the best education possible for Oklahomans, because our kids deserve that.
Yeah, they need it. Well, you will keep doing whatever it takes.
Absolutely.
Keep knocking at that door. Troy Stevenson, thank you so much for stopping by. We do appreciate it. Shelby